Question 21. Dan has a bag of 7 counters numbered 1 to 7. So his counters would look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Abida has a bag of 20 counters numbered 1 to 20. So her counters look like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So straight away you can see that Abida's got far many more counters than Dan. It says each chooses a counter from their own bag without looking. For each statement put a tick if it is true, put a cross if it is not true. Dan is more likely than Abida to choose a 5. Well, they've both got a 5. Dan's 5 is there and Abida's 5 is there. So they've got the same number of 5s. But obviously, Abida's got many more counters. So there's so many more things that she may choose. Because remember, she's not looking when she puts her hand into the bag. So Dan is going to be more likely to choose a 5 than Abida. Because he's got less things that aren't 5s. Abida's got more things that aren't 5. So Dan is going to be more likely to choose a 5. So that one is true. The next statement. They are both equally likely to choose a number less than 3. Well, Dan has got the number 1 and 2, which is less than 3. Abida's got the number 1 and 2, less than 3. So they've both got the same amount of numbers less than 3. But how can they be equally as likely when Abida's got all these extra numbers that they can pick? So even though they've got the same amount of numbers less than 3, they're not equally as likely because they've not got the same amount of counters in their bag. So that one is going to be false. They can't be equally as likely. Third statement. Dan is more likely than Abida to choose an odd number. Well, Dan has got 1, 2, 3, 4 odd numbers out of a possible 7. So Dan is 4 out of 7. And Abida, how many odd numbers does she have? She's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 odd numbers out of 20. Well, 4 out of 7, 4 is slightly more than half of 7. 4 is more than half of 7. So Dan has got more than half chance. And Abida's got 10 out of 20, which 10 out of 20 is exactly half. So she has got half chance. So Dan's got slightly more than half a chance. Abida's got half a chance. So Dan is more likely because he's got more than half a chance. So that one is true. Abida is less likely than Dan to choose a 10. Well, Abida has got 1 10 in there. So she's got a 1 out of 20 chance. Dan has no 10s. So for Dan, it is actually impossible because he can't possibly pick a 10. So if Dan's is impossible to pick a 10, but Abida does have a chance, she's got a 1 out of 20 chance of picking a 10, she can't be less likely. In fact, Abida is more likely to choose a 10. So the statement says Abida is less likely than Dan to choose a 10, so that is false. Because this will appreciate that she's more likely. 1 out of 20 chance is more likely than impossible. And there's your statements, there's your answers. It's true, false, true, false.